Hello.
Yeah, I'm just starting recording now.
Right, stuff.
Um, so I
Yeah,
think we're good to go.
the owl can go on it if nothing else.
Right.
I'm just going to mute you, Alison, because I think you're not on mute. There you go.
Thanks, Ella. So, welcome everybody to this Meet the Funder for the Short Break Care Fund, and this is a focus on large grants. Now, for some of you / many of you, you may have been previously commissioned directly by Salford City Council, and last year they had a review of how they do that and had a conversation with ourselves at Salford CVS to look at how we might be able to run these awards as grants, not direct commissioning from the council. That took quite a while to work through the system. So in the last few weeks, that's been confirmed. So what I really wanted to stress today, that this is quite a change for the council in how they approach supporting short breaks. It's a change for us at Salford CVS. Whilst we're very used to running a whole range of different grants and including small grants for short break care, which some of you may have had in the past, it's the first time we've taken on these larger awards for the council. But most importantly, it's going to be a change for yourselves as providers. So whereas contracts tended to be rolled forward, repeated year on year, there was a real recognition, I think, at the council that some better data was needed in terms of take up of places, and also recognition that the promotion and awareness of parents of the provision that was available, the local offer was quite difficult to navigate, and they took a look at a platform called EQ, and that's Avida, that was available, and saw huge benefits to themselves, the groups, and also parents, and in utilising that online promotion and booking and reporting system. So we're very mindful, as I say, that it's change for everybody. There's a lot of concerns. As with all grants processes, it is a competitive process, and there is a finite amount of money available. That's essentially my very quick introduction, and I'm going to hand back to Ella to give more of an overview of this fund.
Thanks, Simon. So Hayley, I don't know if you wanted to say anything at all, just sort of speaking to what Simon's just said about the consultation that happened, that led to sort of CVS obviously managing the grants programme.
Yeah, so like Simon said, we'd had contracts that had been in place for a number of years for our group-based provision, and we wanted to do a consultation, but on our whole short breaks provision in Salford to look at making changes. So one of the changes is in the way that we buy or commission our targeted short breaks, and by targeted short breaks we mean our group-based provision that are for children with SEND who have difficulty accessing our universal services offer. And our expectation is that the provider of these services will have a higher level of training to be able to support children and young people with SEND to access the group. And yes, we've asked Salford CVS to buy those services by administering the grants programme. It's going to be a 12-month pilot programme, and like Simon said, one of the difficulties we've had is in terms of the data for who's attending and in terms of our group-based provision. So hopefully by using EQ, that will give us that better data. And just to say as well that our Salford Parent Carer Forum are working with us on the development of the grant programme, so that we're making sure that we're getting the voice of our families, children and young people to inform where we're allocating our grants.
That's great. Thanks very much, Hayley. Lovely. So I'll do a bit of a general overview of the session, just so you're all sort of aware what's coming up. We did quickly chat about this a little bit before. But I'll just start by telling you a bit more about the fund itself. You obviously just have the background, but some of the detail about what you can apply funding for. We'll also touch on who can apply, so what sort of organisations. We'll touch on kind of the application process in a bit more detail, and that's where we'll bring in Evida, who will talk to you about how to set up your sample listing on EQ, which is obviously part of the application process for this fund. And then I'll bring in Liz as well, who will talk to you about the safeguarding standard self-assessment and just some kind of hints and tips really for how to complete that. And then we'll go to questions. So we've just touched on the background, so I'll skip over that. Cool. So just a little bit more about the fund then. So as you've just heard, kind of these types of group provision has happened kind of for many years now across Salford. And we've also had our own short break care fund within Salford CVS, so for kind of smaller BCSE-led projects. This is linked to that work, but it is a new fund. So this is the pilot year of kind of the short break care large grants fund at Salford CVS. And all of the funding is for social or leisure activities for children and young people with SEND, which gives parents and carers a break from their care and responsibilities. So grants that we'll be giving out will be in the region of around £15,000 to £50,000. And that's for 12 months of activity. We would look at potentially larger grants, but that's only in very kind of exceptional cases where the amount of activity is kind of beyond what would typically be expected for most providers in Salford. And I would really encourage that if you thought that that might be kind of relevant to your organisation, just to get in touch with us first and have a bit of a conversation about that. So like I said before, bookings will be managed by the providers themselves on the online booking platform EQ. And that's also where you'll be promoting your activities as well. And as I think you'll see in a minute, it's a really nice sort of streamlined and really accessible way for parents to book on their children. That also gives providers lots of really helpful data about the people that are attending. We'll touch on this in a little bit more detail in a second, but direct work with the parents and carers or siblings of children with disabilities can't be funded through this grant. So it is just for the actual activities with children with disabilities themselves. Cool. So like Hayley mentioned, there has been consultation happening with various stakeholders kind of across the city, which has informed this fund. And part of that consultation, which took place a couple of years ago now, was with 381 parents and carers of children with SEND in Salford. And some of the findings are on the screen there, so I won't go through them kind of one by one. And this is in the guidance notes as well. But I suppose just to pick out kind of a couple of things there. So ASD/autism was the most common type of disability in Salford of the parents that are surveyed, and that was followed by children who had a learning disability or ADHD. So obviously when you're looking at kind of designing your project or your service, that's maybe helpful information to have. In terms of the age range, so under 5, there was around 12% of children that had SEND. Sorry, of those surveyed, 12% were under 5, 24% were 5 to 7, 39% were 8 to 11, and 22% were 12 to 16, and then a smaller number were aged kind of 16 plus. Weekend and school holiday provision was obviously really popular with parents and carers. And amazingly, around 2/3 of parents and carers said their child was not accessing organised activities. So that's obviously a kind of key thing that we're looking to achieve through this fund, is to make sure that parents and carers have that support that they need. So in terms of the children and young people that are eligible, so children need to be 5 years to 17 years, 11 months, so just under 18. They need to be a Salford resident, they need to have a special educational need or disability, although I think it's important to say that they don't need an official diagnosis. It's the parent who will self-declare that when they're booking onto the service. And the child needs to be having difficulties accessing universal services in the community due to the level or complexity of their disability. Children might have an education, health and care plan, but that's not a requirement. And the same for a social care assessment as well. So we're not going to be saying that they must have that to take part in your activities. So in terms of who can apply, so constituted voluntary community and social enterprise sector organisations can apply. For this fund as well, it is slightly different to some of the other funding that we offer at Solve CBS, because independent and private sector organisations are also able to apply. And again, if you've got any questions about that, I would say probably just get in touch with us and we can have a further conversation about that. So to apply, organisations need a turnover of £50,000 in the last financial year. So that can be your financial year. So obviously they don't always align with kind of the April to March. So it's your last financial year. You must have a track record of working with children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities, a track record of working in Salford, or at the very least a good working knowledge of Salford's geography and demographics. And that is something that we ask about in the application form as well. So we will be really kind of considering that at the panel. And just because of the turnaround times on this fund are obviously quite tight, you'd need to be able to start delivery and activities kind of really quickly if you were to be awarded a grant. So in terms of the policies and procedures that you need in place, so you'll need a health and safety policy, an equality and diversity statement or policy, public liability insurance, risk assessments, safeguarding children policy, which you must submit with your application, and if applicable, so if you're working with adults at risk, you need that safeguarding adults policy. And if your project involves volunteers, you'll need the volunteering policy as well. And that's just a few examples of kind of some of the amazing work that's already happened. So this is some examples from our smaller short break care pot that we've delivered previously. And I know the commission contracts have done loads of amazing work delivering kind of youth groups and swimming clubs and kind of all sorts of different activities across the city. So yeah, there's a real range there, and I think that's something that will obviously be important for this round of funding as well, that we are able to fund kind of a range of activities for children, which helps to meet kind of lots of different interests and the level of support required as well. It's obviously important that we're getting that range. So yeah, just some nice activities that have been funded in previous rounds. So in terms of the specifics of what we'll fund, so we can fund kind of staffing to deliver additional places, and that's whether that's in sort of new or existing provision. It's just about kind of giving the opportunities to children with SEND to take part in activities. Volunteers' expenses we can obviously cover, and if you're not sure kind of what would come into that, then again, please talk to us. But that can be things like kind of public transport costs, mileage costs, refreshment costs, all that sort of stuff. Training courses for staff and volunteers. So one of the kind of outcomes of this fund is helping staff and volunteers feel more confident working with children with SEND. So that's absolutely eligible as well. Additional non-staff running costs incurred through supporting children with SEND. So transport to enable children to access groups, and any sort of reasonable project costs essentially that will help you deliver kind of a really meaningful project. In terms of what we won't fund through the short break care, so it wouldn't be kind of large capital equipment like vehicles or kind of large pieces of furniture, unless there was a kind of clear reason that that was linked to the project that you're delivering. Adaptations to rooms or buildings can't be funded. And one-off activities as well. So this funding is to provide those sort of long-term regular activities for children that can have a really, really big impact on their health and well-being, as well as kind of giving parents and carers a break themselves. So that's why the kind of one-off events, if there wasn't that broader programme around them, wouldn't be funded. And the same with the overnight residential stays or camps as well. That is something that's supported kind of through other kind of short breaks funding within the council, but that's not what this fund is for. And just a quick note as well. So informal support for families of children with SEND is something that we've kind of heard about that's been offered. So it could literally just be kind of parents and carers just having a space for a brew and a chat while their child takes part in activities. I think something else that I've seen is also siblings kind of being supported to take part in activities. And both of those things are obviously brilliant and kind of really, really valuable. And I know that parents can get a lot from that around having space to kind of chat and interact with each other. But I just wanted to flag really that support for families isn't something that these grants are able to support. So we're not saying that you can't kind of do that alongside the funded activities. It would just need to have match funding from another source, essentially, if you wanted to put on kind of, I don't know, like refreshments or something along those lines. So we're absolutely not saying kind of don't do that type of work alongside this project, but it would just need to be funded through other means if there was kind of spend involved in that. Fab. And in terms of the reporting requirements for this project, so we would be getting a 6-month report from you, and that's just a bit of a progress update to see how things are going, and then a 12-month report at the end of the project as well, which will ask for more detail kind of about the outcomes that you achieved, some of the learning, kind of what went well, what could have gone better, and how you spent the money as well. And in terms of Solve CVS's approach to evaluation, I've popped it on the screen there, but it's all around impact. So that's again sort of the outcomes. What difference has the project made to the children and young people that you're working with? We'd also really appreciate kind of information about the difference it's made to carers and parents. So that's something we'll ask about in the end of project report form, is kind of what feedback have they given you about the difference the project made? And then also, the learning, like I said before, and assurance is just demonstrating that you've demonstrated good management of public money, essentially. And then we also do project visits as well. So we can talk to you more about kind of monitoring the evaluation at those project visits. Cool. So in terms of how to apply, so this is a little bit different for us in that it's a two-step application process. So the first step is to create a sample listing on EQ. And we felt that that was really important because to be able to kind of run a project and reach the parents and carers of the children that you can be working with, use of EQ will be really, really important for the funded providers. So we're just really keen to see that you're able to kind of make the best use of EQ and create a listing that looks really nice and will be attractive to parents. And then the second step is to submit your kind of formal application. Excuse me. And that will be in the form of an application form. So those of you who applied to Solve CVS funds before will be familiar with our forms and what they look like. The budget will be separate, so that's in a separate Excel document. And then we're also asking you to submit the safeguarding and self-assessment document as well. So all of those will be submitted together by 12 p.m. on the 3rd of March. And that would also need to be with your safeguarding policies. So definitely your safeguarding children policy, and then also if any kind of adults at risk would be involved in the project in any way, that would also mean that we would need your safeguarding adults policy as well. Fab. And like I said, we'll go through this in a bit more detail. So that's just a photo of our application form, but I just wanted to quickly flag that we do actually have kind of step-by-step support in the guidance notes to help you when you're filling out the application form. So I think this is part of the guidance that sometimes gets missed or people don't know it's there. So please do kind of have that open when you're filling out the form. And I'm available as well to support with any of the application process really, but especially kind of completing the form and developing your project idea and kind of reviewing draft applications and stuff like that. But this is also really helpful because it just tells you a little bit more about each of the questions and kind of what we're hoping to get out of it essentially. And then we always put this in our Meet the Funders because I think sometimes people struggle to kind of express exactly what additional benefits their projects bring. So this is specific to one of the questions in the application form, where we ask about kind of the wider outcomes that the project might achieve. And what we're essentially asking here is kind of what is it about the way that you're going to deliver the project? So not what you're going to do, not the actual activities themselves, but the way that you're going to deliver them that will also bring additional benefits beyond kind of the direct benefits for the health and well-being of the children and young people. So I've popped a few examples on the screen there. So for instance, are you kind of going to make sure that your project spend is all spent locally at kind of independent businesses, if possible, in Salford? Does your organisation kind of consider the environment and choose greener products and focusing on the kind of reusing, recycling and composting waste wherever you can? Will the project create new volunteering opportunities or kind of support staff and volunteers to develop new skills? So yeah, just thinking about sort of beyond the direct impact on the children and young people, what other benefits might the project bring? And I think just as a bit of a quick tip on that, I think that's actually one where sometimes asking maybe a colleague who's not directly involved in delivering the project can be quite helpful because they've almost got that outside view, and they might be able to help you think through that a little bit more.
Just to chip in, and Ella will know that I always say this about the social value, is that what doesn't please panel members who are assessing applications is when you see a lot of spend against basically going to Amazon as the quickest, easiest sometimes cheapest way of buying things. We'd much prefer you to spend as near as you can within Salford, and ideally, if you can, local suppliers, that would be brilliant. But Amazon don't pay much tax in the UK, which helps fund local authorities, amongst other things. So we really encourage you not to use them as a supplier. Thanks, Ella.
Thanks, Simon. I should have learned to say that by now, shouldn't I? But no, that's great. And like I said before, the budget is a separate document, so that's available as a template to fill out in Excel. So we've got an example budget on one of the sheets, so please just make sure that you're filling in the blank template, not the example budget. So the tab with the example budget is the one that you can see on screen there, and everything is in red. And it just helps give you a bit of an overview of kind of how we're asking you to break down calculations, how to fill in the match funding section at the end there as well. And I think when you're doing the match funding section, so where it says source of match funding at the bottom, just make sure that you're kind of being really clear about whether it's being secured or not. If it's not yet secured, kind of when you might expect to hear. So say that you've applied to another grant for a particular element of the project. If the project's costing more than the amount that's available through this fund, it's just about the panel sort of having that rounded understanding of the costs and the likelihood, excuse me, the likelihood that you'll be able to secure all the funding that you need to be able to run the project. In terms of how you're breaking down the calculations, again, the panel really like to understand exactly how you've reached kind of the total cost column. So do have a really good look at the breakdown in the example. You're welcome to kind of use the same format or similar format that we use there, just so you're including the unit costs. If it's staffing costs, for instance, you might want to say what their kind of rate is and the number of weeks that they'll be working on the project. We've also got kind of the number of days per week in there as well, just for wider information. So it just really helps the panel kind of understand the value for money and exactly what you're going to pay for. And it gives them that confidence and that assurance as well, like we were talking about before. Cool. And then I won't spend too long on this because I feel like I should retitle this really. Why applications fail feels a bit negative, but there are definitely common things that come up across all of the funds that we manage that means that some applications might be less likely to get funded. So we've just sort of put some on the screen here and we can send out these slides as well in case you want to refer back to them. Obviously, making sure that you're eligible to apply. Please do refer to the guidance for more information about eligibility. Or if you're not sure, like I said, please do just get in touch with us. Funding criteria are not met or addressed. So this fund is obviously all about providing group-based activities for children and young people with SEND. And they should be designed to kind of support their mental and or physical health and well-being. Applicants assuming that the assessment panel has pre-existing knowledge of your organisation or project. I think that's a really, really important one. You may have received kind of short break funding in the past, but don't assume that the panel knows anything about the projects that you've delivered previously. Please spell out kind of exactly what you're looking to do and exactly how it will benefit children and young people's well-being. Leaving more questions than answers, so don't kind of put in half a kind of answer about a particular question and then prompt lots of other questions for the panel to then ponder, because they need to have that full understanding of the project to be able to give you the highest scores. Over-ambitious target, so putting kind of you're going to work with 5,000 young people when you're only asking for a small amount of funding. It's just making sure that it all sort of ties together and the panel feel that it's a kind of sensible request. Project budgets inflated to reach the maximum amount. So obviously we're not wanting you to undersell kind of the work that you're doing, and we appreciate that things do cost money, and obviously you want to deliver a high quality kind of meaningful project. But if they are seeing things in the budget that haven't been referenced in the narrative about the project, or that just feel kind of completely random and not relevant to the work that you're looking to deliver, then they absolutely will question that and want to know more about kind of why that's in there. So again, I think it's just sort of making sure that everything is kind of sound sensible and ties together between the budget and the application form. Not having kind of full cost breakdowns in the budget is something that I think is quite easy to do, hopefully, and really helps the panels. I'd really recommend kind of just breaking down all the costs that are in there. And then obviously kind of submitting after the closing date. Just make sure that you are submitting by the application deadline, because we can't accept late applications. And then the bottom one, I think, is key. So demand on the fund sometimes does exceed the money that's available. And that's kind of obviously an unfortunate kind of fact of applying for this sort of funding. But I think by kind of following some of this guidance, and feel free to kind of reach out to me as well, we can obviously try to give you the best possible chance of securing a grant. Okay, so we're just coming on to the section about managing your bookings on EQ and kind of setting up your sample listing. So that was a bit of an overview of kind of the whole fund and application process, and I'll pass over to Avida in a minute. But just as a really quick kind of intro to why we're looking to ask you to kind of use EQ if you are to receive a grant. I mean, Avida will show you, and I'm sure you'll understand, but it's a really lovely system that gives parents and carers a really nice kind of holistic overview of all the activities that are going on across Salford. And it also really streamlines kind of their experience of booking onto and then managing their own kind of upcoming activities that their children are doing. It gives you as providers a really full understanding of the needs and preferences of children. And it's also really helpful for managing bookings as well. I think one thing that really stuck out when Avida was talking us through kind of the system was that if they're not able to attend sessions for whatever reason, parents can kind of take their children off activities as well, and that really helps you as providers kind of know who's actually going to turn up. So that will hopefully be really helpful for organisations that get a grant. And then also from our perspective as well, it means we get access to kind of live data on projects. We can see kind of how many bookings different providers are taking. And that just means that we can help you hopefully kind of reach out to more parents or promote your activities more widely. So yeah, lots of different benefits for lots of different people, hopefully, through using EQ. But Avida, I'll pass over to you to do a bit more of a run through for everyone on the call about how they actually set up their listing, if that's okay. So I will stop sharing my screen for now.
Right. Thank you so much, Ella. Would you mind giving me permission to share my screen, please?
Yes.
So in this demonstration, I'm going to show you another short break scheme so you can see what it looks like when it's operating. And I'm going to give you like a really fast whirlwind tour of what a booking process might look like and what it might look like to you. But I'm going to do that really fast because we'll we'll have time to give you a proper demo later on once your applications have been approved. And this session is really to focus on how to do that initial stage, which is creating the listing. But I'm going to do that whirlwind tour just so you get a full picture of the platform and why the visuals are so important. So one of the things that really sets EQ apart from other booking platforms is the fact that it's very visually engaging and very attractive and nice to use for all the people who use it. And EQ, we as a company have spent a lot of time with the providers as well as the parents, because we care about their perspective about what it's like. It's not just about the councils or the management of the funded programs. So we really thought about it from everyone's perspective. And of all the parents, we've spent a lot of time with parent carer groups of SEND communities, because they have quite strong opinions on how things should be managed, and they're great champions for digital future for them. They really are pioneering in their desire to have a digital system for them to interact with. So this picture that I'm showing you is an example of one of the other councils that is running a SEND short breaks through EQ. And this page is the page that parents would be directed to and it's like a collection of listings. And parents would be able to scroll through all the things that are available in the area. And as soon as they see the page, they're getting this very attractive, juicy impression preview, if you like, of all the activities that are going on. And they'll also be able to see all the upcoming dates and how many sessions are left. And they would be able to go to a map and zoom into their area and see what's available near to them. They'll be able to filter by the age of their child, by your name if they know you by name, or by a particular date range. So once they've found the thing that they're interested in, they'll double click and they'll be presented with quite a comprehensive view of what that activity is. And again, not just images, but quite a lot of descriptive information about anything that you want. It can be customized. And whilst these listings might take half an hour or 40 minutes to create, the benefit is that they are a unique web page and they can be reused over and over again, and they will attract very strong SEO, and they will be a really nice, strong representation of what you're offering out there on the internet, for you to be able to sort of elevate your entire organization through. So what I'm going to show you is just a very, very quick example. So I'm jumping to a dummy site, which is just a replica of our normal site, and I'm just going to show you very quickly what it would look like if a parent was going to book. They would click on the listing that they're interested in. They'd be able to flick through multiple photographs that represent what it is that their children will be doing, so they really get this visual impression. They'll be able to see at a glance the address and the ages of the children, who it's funded by, and then they will see this very rich description. They will see a SEND accessibility checklist. So this was designed by parent carers. They wanted to see a high-level flashcard of yes, no, maybe, what you do offer and what you cater for. You will be able to show your members of staff. So one of the things the parent carer group said is, we want to know which human beings are going to be there. We don't care about the logo of the organisation. We actually want to know the people and the background of the people that are going to be there. So you'll be able to do that and give access to your registers to your member of staff at the same time. And you can customize these listings. So you may decide that you want to add extra specific information that you think would be useful, like a typical day or something like that. You can even add learning aims to indicate what outcomes you would be seeking to provide for the young people. You can have multiple ticket types, which helps you to control the number of children in each session. You will be able to collect reviews from parents. We don't call them reviews because we don't like the word review in connection with an educational experience, but we call them reflections. But again, this is very nice for other parents to see. There'll be a map, what's provided, and so forth. And once they've read all of this, if they still have questions, they'll be able to contact you and send a message to the system. But we hope they don't need to, because the listing will be so comprehensive. They'll be able to go straight forward and they'll be able to select their dates. And normally we'll allow them to select any dates that they're going to attend. But we won't force them. We basically, it might be that they're going to pick this day and that day. Then they'll be able to select the children that are going to attend. If they haven't booked before, if they book for anything in Salford, if they book for half, anything like that, their children will be there already. If they haven't, they'll be able to put their children's names straight in the checkout flow. If they're attending with their child, they'll be able to select themselves as well. And then they'll be able to go through and select the ticket. And you may have more than one ticket type because you may be controlling how many children with different needs you allow in each session. So maybe you will have a group supported ticket and a one-to-one ticket. And you'll be able to then see the set of questions. These questions will be specially formulated for Salford, but essentially there'll be a really comprehensive set of questions where parents can put information about their child's SEND needs. They'll be able to add information like how their child likes to communicate, if they need help using the toilet, what school they go to, photographic permissions and all sorts of things. And then they will request a booking. And as soon as they do that, we'll take them to their schedule page and they'll be able to see what they've done. They'll get beautiful emails, so that we'll send them an email saying your booking request is on its way, relax. You'll hear back when it's approved, and then they'll get another one saying your booking has been approved, and then they'll get several reminders and so forth. So it will be all efficiently managed for them, and they'll have the opportunity to cancel if they can't attend, send you messages and so forth. And as a provider, you'll be able to see these bookings coming in, you'll get emails, and you'll be able to see if these children are eligible, and you'll be able to go into every single booking and see all the answers that the children have been given, and you'll be able to approve them. You can even do this in a granular way where you might approve one child and decline another and say that this child can only come on that one session. So you can do all sorts of really fancy things that avoid administration and back and forth for parents and keeps everything really clean. And ultimately, the system will build up a lovely schedule of events so that you'll be able to see how many children are going to attend on each session, on each day. And I'll just jump to the past date so that you'll be able to see an example. Let me just go to one with booking. So you'll be able to go into your register and take your register on a desktop or even on a mobile phone. You'll be able to handle your register and so forth. So taking your register will be the last thing you need to do, and that will send all the data back to Salford CVS, and that will be your data return effectively. So it's a very simple, smooth process for you. So that's a really whirlwind tour, and we'll go into that more. But the first step of this process is to create a listing. So if you remember, the listing pages look something like this. And when you get to start your listing process, you will need to think about what do you need. So you need to get a collection of photographs, minimum of 3, we say. Mobile phone photographs are great, and you don't necessarily need to have children's faces. You could have children's hands or children's feet, or photographs of the environment or something like that. You could use stock photos if you don't have any, but obviously photos of your real environment would be ideal, but they're really important. We don't want any text or logos. It's not a poster we want here. We want to give the impression of the actual listing. You need to think about the description. So the description is, we need to speak in the language of the parent. So you'll be writing your description to the grant as your grant bid, but that's to Ella and Simon and to the panel. That's not the same language that you would use to a parent. So we want to try and think about, imagine we met the parent at a bus stop and they've never heard of this short break scheme. They've never heard of you, and they have no idea what it would be like for their child to attend such a session. Go from that ground zero base point and imagine speaking to them in a casual voice at a bus stop or something like that. How would you describe what was going to happen? How would you put their mind at rest? So you'll be able to furnish your listing with all of this information and make it really personal, and make it lovely for you. And then again, you've got the opportunity to add a little bit about your organisation. You've got the opportunity to add staff members and so forth. Now, Alison, oh no, sorry, I thought that was a question. Sorry, it's somebody waiting to come in. We will be supplying you with a help article, a couple of help articles that will help you to make this listing. And we've got tons and tons of help articles in our help centre, and we've got a special section for SEND short breaks. So you'll receive this article, which is getting started for Send Short Breaks. And this is what I was saying. Before you start this task, go and gather your photographs, gather your descriptions, and gather your logo and a few lines about your organisation before you start doing it. And then all you'll do is click this link, this onboarding link, and you're going to be taken through to this step-by-step flow. And this step-by-step flow is going to make it easy for you not to have to jump around inside our interface. It's going to take you through and it's going to ask you questions one at a time. If I just go back to the beginning, just to show you, I started this before. It's going to say, what is your organisation name? What is your motto? And you can see where this is going to go on the eventual listing. It'll ask you add your logo. It'll ask you write a paragraph about your organisation, add your phone number. So you can see it's very simple. When you come to council funded, you'll say yes. And in the next step, we'll explain that you're going to be linking it with the council. So in your case, Salford CVS is the council. So you will start typing in this drop down. This is my sample, but you'll just start typing Salford, and you'll see there'll be two options. There'll be HAF Salford, and then there'll be Send Salford CVS. So you obviously want to choose that council programme, not the HAF one. Then you'll go on to the next step and we'll explain to you what I've just explained, which is that parents will answer questions, you'll see the labels change, you'll take your register, and that's really the three responsibilities. We'll go on and on and on and on, and you'll just do it one at a time, and you will be able to upload your photos. You'll be able to do this, and you'll be able to come back anytime. So you'll be able to stop and start, and you'll be able to see all the sections that you've got, your dates and times, your tickets, your settings, and so forth. So that every single step, so you can keep coming back to it. It'll save your answers, and you will, when you're ready to publish, you will want to keep your listing private. So in your settings, one of them says, do you want to make your listing private? So if you switch this on, you will be keeping your listing off the internet, which means that you can publish it, and Ella and the team will be able to see your listing because it will be linked to them, and you'll be able to share it with your colleagues if you want to get them to review it. You'll be able to edit it at any time. You can come back to edit it. So once you've published it, you'll be able to go to your listing page and you will be able to click edit listing, and you'll jump inside and you'll see every section, and you'll be able to click back into the section and edit the text. So don't be frightened of publishing and going back and checking it with your colleagues and stuff like that, because it's fully editable after you've published it. And so you will be able to end up with a beautiful listing with a set of dates, with tickets. No one will be able to book it because it's set to private. So really, in summary, you're going to have this information. We've also got a lovely article, which is just a repetition of what I've said, which is this how to create the perfect Send Short Break listing. And here we've got an example here, and you can see that we're kind of giving you some sort of cheeky suggestions. Like, imagine someone was choosing between a listing that said send holiday camp or wild child forest, and this kind of put your marketing hats on and think about the parent as a paying customer. Essentially, how would you market to a paying customer? So please make use of these, and you also can come through to EQ. So in your menu, when you log into EQ, you'll find at the bottom there's message support. And if you click that, a chat bubble will come up, and you can either chat with us or you can book a 15-minute support call, and we can share screens if you get stuck anywhere. And normally you can book a call the same morning or afternoon, so you're not delayed in what you're doing. So there's no problem about reaching out to us for any questions that you might have. What else can I say? I think that probably covers it. Really, all I want to say is that we support I think it's nearly 40 councils up and down the country with both HAF, Send Short Breaks, family hubs, and we've looked at the data, and we can tell categorically that the most successful providers are the providers that have taken time over the presentation of their listing and made them really beautiful and engaging and clear and comprehensive, and this cuts down, not this increases engagement, but it also cuts down on non-attendance, and that seems a little bit counterintuitive, but when people engage with something that looks very important and very attractive, they're much more likely to attend. All of your emails all the reminder emails will come through with your cover photo on it, and so it keeps this sort of excitement and importance in the parent's mind. And also one more thing I think I'll just add is that you will be able to use this booking platform outside of the Send Short Breaks. So even in the worst scenario, if you made this listing and your application wasn't successful, you can go on to use the platform for your own personal needs. And so if you're processing free bookings, there's absolutely no charge whatsoever. You can use it for free. And if you decide to process paid bookings, then you will have no contract or any subscription. You will just pay a transaction fee for any paid booking. So it is a bit of a gift from Salford CVS to you, regardless of the outcome of your application.
Fantastic.
Thanks, that's great. And
Can I
just say, oh, go for it, Simon.
I was just going to say that we've been really impressed with what we've seen from EQ. We had lots of questions, and we thought difficult questions, and they'd already been thought of and solutions applied. So that was hugely encouraging. The one thing that I do want to flag is that some of you will have communities that don't use digital communication, or there may be individual parents that don't have digital access. But is it worth just expanding on that a bit, Vida, so that the providers?
Yeah, so essentially this does happen. The first thing to ask yourself as a provider is, to what degree does this parent need support? So one of the things that both in the HAF programme and the Send Short Breaks and the Family Hub, helping parents to make that first step on their digital journey is almost like the highest help that you could provide them, because in order to access services in the community and to apply for benefits and do everything that they need, if they get help with being able to access digital technology, this is so impactful to them. So if you think that someone's nearly there, the best thing you could do is literally invite them in and sit them down and show them how to get set up and book for themselves, because once they've booked for the very first time, all their information will be stored, and that going forward it will just be a 2-click process. So if you think that you can get them to that stage, then try that first. If you think that there's no way that they don't have a phone, they don't have access to the internet, there's literacy problems or special educational needs themselves, then you will have the ability to create a booking for them. So you will be able to go from any page, there's a button that says create a booking. If you're on your booking page, you can create a booking, and you can go in here and you can create what we call a registration record, and you'll just be able to pick up the name of the activity. You will be able to select the dates that you want to book them in for, and you'll put their name in here. Obviously there's no email, but you might put their phone number in there, because obviously you've got to think about emergency contact details, and then you will be able to so it didn't like that because I didn't provide the phone number. Detected my lie. And then you can choose to give them the ticket, and then of course in that scenario you would have to answer the questions on their behalf. So you would enter those questions for them and fill all these details in for them and save that, and that would go on the register. So you get their date of birth and so on, and you would save that information, and then you would save that record, and you would appear as the booker. Sorry, that's on the wrong side. But if you are in the booking, that is the one we've just created, I think. Oh no, that wasn't for me. That was someone else I created it for. But essentially, you would be able to be the booker in that case, and there would be no parent attached to it.
Right. So if parents were only able to book by phone, there's a method that the providers can still utilise the EQ system.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank
But
you.
obviously, they're not going to get messages. They're not going to get reminders. They're going to be disembodied from the system, as it were. So from your point of view, to help you, the more parents that you have that are using it for themselves, the less work you have to do ultimately. Because, for example, let's say you had a flood and you needed to cancel a session. On EQ, you can just go straight in, cancel the session, send a message out to everyone. It's removed from their registers. It's a two-step process. But if you've got one person there that didn't book for themselves, you're going to have to think, were they on that session? Quickly, let me go and find their contact details. I need to call them separately, and all this sort of thing.
And thank you.
Thanks, Avida. That's brilliant. And also, I think once children are registered as eligible, it becomes a really, really quick process for the parents, doesn't it? Because a lot of that information is actually pre-populated as well. So I think it's, yeah, very seamless, but lots of kind of alternatives if parents absolutely aren't able to book on for whatever reason. Has anyone got any questions specifically about EQ while we've got Avida on the call? Nick?
Hi, thank you. That, I mean, it's a very attractive platform. Thank you for the whistle stop tour and the kind of the introduction to how to fill it in. How long does it take, do you reckon, to list one? You know, what's an average time to? I'm slightly concerned about the amount of time to input one session. Have you got an understanding of how much time it would take to do one, please?
So if you think about it as the listing, it's like you're creating a web page. So if you've already got information, if you come, that's why I said, if you think you've got your photos there, you've got a bit of text, and you've got a little bit of about us kind of copied and pasted from your website, then you could create the whole listing beautifully in half an hour. And the way I recommend you do it is bash it in and tart it up later. So get the gubbins off it in, put it all up, publish it, and then sit back with your colleagues and say, is that about right, or what could we improve there? So, for example, each listing can have up to 2 optional sections of text where you might like to put in a sample day, or remember to bring, or suitable for, or whatever you want to put in with your own title. But you might sit back with your colleagues and say, do you think we should talk a little bit more about our trips? Or do you know, so there might be personal things to you, but you could get the whole listing done in, I mean, I can make them in like 7 minutes without even blinking. So you can do it. If you come prepared to the session, then it will be really, really quick. The thing to remember is it's all editable. So don't fixate on getting the exact perfect sentence. Just go for it, get it published, and then sit back and review it and keep iterating.
And I would
Thank
say
you.
That's brilliant, Avida, and definitely do feel free to go back, but feel free to go back before the application deadline, at which point we might start reviewing your listing. So don't
I hear
be...
that, Ella. Can I just ask another technical question? I mean, there was 1 to 3 and 1 to 1 drop down menus about the staffing ratios. We at the moment do provide short breaks, and we do our 1 to 6. Is that not a ratio that you would support through the EQ mechanism? Because that will have a direct impact on costings. I mean,
No,
we're not
so
worried about that. Yeah.
It's completely flexible. So each session could have just one ticket, which is child ticket, and that would mean, say you set your group size up to be 10, that would mean that the EQ system would release a maximum of 10 tickets for each session. So you would then restrict each session to just 10 children, and we would control that. But let's say, for example, within that group of 10, you can cope with 2 one-to-one children and up to 10 group supported children. So in that case, you could put 2 tickets, and you could say this ticket, this one-to-one ticket, only release 2 of these per session. And so in that case, you would be telling the system, I can have up to 10 group supported, but if someone picks the one-to-one, then I can only have 2 of those per session. So you can have this granular control over you know, this is how typically it's used in SEND, but you could use it for any reason. You could have 2 tickets. You could have one for what could I say, children requiring transport and one for children without transport. And that could just be a flag for you to know, to be able to filter your children by those that need transport or those that wish to have a hot dinner or whatever it is. You know, you can use those tickets for anything. You can control the ticket name, so you can write anything on the ticket name that you want. The idea is, think of it with your marketing hat on. How does this clarify to the parent which ticket they should purchase, you know, or not purchase, but which ticket they should select for themselves? It's an indicator.
Thanks, Abida. And is that all right for you, Nick? Yeah, brilliant. And Emma, I think you had a question as well.
It wasn't really a question. It was just, I just want to say that it's just an amazing platform, and we at Take Action, that's one of our biggest things, is the booking systems that we've had to design ourselves, and it takes a lot of time behind the scenes that is essentially we're not getting paid for. So I am really, really excited and buzzing for EQ. So I just wanted to say that, really.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really kind. We're excited to support you.
That's just how we felt as well when we saw it, Emma. So that's really good to hear that you feel the same. And also, I do just feel like I need to flag as well that although we are obviously kind of encouraging groups to create a really nice looking and high quality listing, it's not kind of the main thing to focus on with this application. Obviously, the thing that we're most interested in is the application form and all of those other supporting documents that we mentioned. And that's all supported by the listing that you're going to create on EQ as well. Fab. So I'm gonna move over to Liz now, I think, if that's all right. But thanks so much, Abida, for coming and for your help. And like Abida said before, she's offered kind of one-to-one support as well if you do have any issues. So yeah, thanks, Abida. We'll see you soon.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Yes.
Good luck. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Fab. So Liz, I will share my screen again, and I've got the slides that you sent over on there.
Yep. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so I think everyone was on the call from the start, but just in case anyone wasn't, I'm the safeguarding development worker from Salford CVS. So the first thing really to say about the safeguarding standards assessment that we're going to ask you to complete as part of this application is don't panic. It's not onerous. It's not war and peace. So yeah, don't panic about it at all. The safeguarding standards themselves, I don't know if anyone's seen them before or remembers the history of them. They used to be 20 standards, and then I think in 2023 we kind of streamlined them and whittled them down based on feedback from groups that were completing them, that they were too repetitive and too onerous. So we've whittled them down to 7 now. So that's the first bit of good news about them. The second thing is that they are designed for organisations that work with children and young people and or adults at risk of harm. It's the same set of standards. There's not a separate one for children and for adults. So when you see the paperwork, you'll see adults at risk all the way through it. Don't worry if you're, this piece of work that you're applying for, this grant, is for children. So don't worry about feeling that you've got to give evidence around, work that you do with adults. Just focus on the children and young people. That's absolutely fine. So there are 7 main areas now, and some of them are, they're so obvious. This is not going to be news to you. You're not going to suddenly go, oh crikey, training. We were supposed to send people on training. Oh, who knew? They're fairly they're not designed to catch people out at all. That's not the point of this exercise. Really, it's a self-assessment, and what it can be used really well for is for you, maybe your safeguarding lead or your board or whoever, really kind of takes responsibility for safeguarding in your organisation, to do a bit of a reflection and think, okay, what have we got in place already? Where are we good? And actually, maybe are there areas that we could improve on? So the other, so we've got don't panic. That's number 1, and number 2 is just be honest. Yeah, be honest. It's a self-assessment, and you're going to rate yourself on each of these areas. Are you green, which is, you've got everything, you're good to go? Are you amber? Are there some things that maybe you could improve on? Or actually, are you red? Are you missing something? it only really works if you're honest about that. So don't, you know, we're not looking for, when I look at these, it's going to be me that assesses this bit. I'm not looking for everything to be green. It doesn't need to be green, because on this, not everything needs to be green rather, because on the template, it's got a bit that says action plan. And you can, so if you've got an area where you think, oh, we're amber on that, that's fine. All you need to do on your action plan is show me, okay, we know we're amber. What we need to do is this is when we're going to do it by, and then, you know, it's just, you know, it's assurance, really, quality assurance. So don't, I don't want you to look at it and panic and think, oh, crikey, we've got to be, you know, by the 3rd of March, we've got to be green in all these areas. You don't. So that's the first thing to say. Okay, so Ella, if you push us on to the next slide, that would be great. And I don't know whether you've seen this paperwork or not, really. So, or some of you might have even done the assessment already. I don't know. So I'm just going to assume, I'm going to take it that we're, you know, starting from scratch, and that you don't know about it. But if you know all this stuff already, that's grand. But basically, this is what the self-assessment looks like. So for every one of those standards, it starts off with a summary of the standard in one sentence. And then down that guidance column, you get a more detailed explanation of what it is that we're looking for. And then this is why I'm saying don't panic, because then we give you a list and say, these are some of the things that you might be able to, that you might have in place that might demonstrate that you meet that standard. And then you can then, in the last column, what you would do is just write out, you know, what you've got. So this is what we've got that demonstrates this standard. And then you then score yourself. So you score yourself. So you might think, yeah, we've got all the suggested evidence, therefore we're green. Or we've got most of what we're supposed to have, therefore we're going to rate ourselves amber. So yeah, you rate yourselves. When I have a look at it, I might look and go, do you know what, actually, I think they're green. I don't think they need to worry about being amber. Or if I'm, you know, not had enough coffee, or I'm on the, you know, I'm doing it, you know, after a slightly frustrating email, I might go, oh, that's red. We're talking about amber. But it's, you know, you go first. Yeah, you have a go first. That's absolutely fine. What I will say is, obviously, when you list out what you've got, I'm good, but I'm not magic or psychic. So you're going to need to send it to me. So with what I would suggest is you create a folder, you put your document in. It's just a Word document, so you can type on it, put that in. And then if you've got 3 things that you're sending me for standard 1, just label them. Standard 1, child safeguarding policy. Standard 1, whistleblowing policy. So that when I open up the folder, I go, oh yeah, this I can see they've said it on the Word document, and they've sent it to me as well. Okay. Just flick us through to the next one, Ella, if that's okay. Brilliant. When you've assessed yourself, as I said, you might think, oh, we're an amber there, or we're a red, which means you've got some actions to do. And under there's always an action plan box for each standard. There's an action plan box, and you can type in. That's for you to type in. It's not for me to tell you what to do. You type in yourself and say, okay, I think what we need to do is we need to review this policy by, you know, in the next 6 months, and this is who's going to do it. And all that's doing is just giving us a sense of, okay, they've got a plan. They're not just saying, well, we haven't got something, what we're going to do. You know, we have, you know, I can see that you've got a plan. Doesn't need to be war and peace. You can do that in bullet points. It doesn't, you know, I'm really aware that, you know, the deadline for this is the 3rd of March, and I don't want this to be, you know, the thing that you know stops you from applying. So it can just be bullet points. Don't worry about it. Okay. The other thing, again, Ella, if you just take us to the next slide, is if you've got a question about, I wonder whether, you know, this counts as evidence or not, or I wonder, I'm not sure about what to put as an action, just get in touch and talk it through with me. That's absolutely fine. I'm happy to just have a conversation with you and give you some tips. I'm happy if you wanted me to proofread something, you know, as long as you get it to me in good time, that's absolutely fine. And then, you know, once you know that it's all been submitted, if you actually want some support with some of the actions in the plan, again, that's absolutely fine. Just get in touch with me. The thing that I haven't put on that slide, which is probably pertinent, is that I'm part-time, so my usual working days are Wednesday to Friday. So you know, if you've got to upload something by Monday lunchtime, don't be emailing me on Monday at lunchtime, Monday morning at 9 o'clock saying, can you quickly have a look at this, because I won't see it until the Wednesday, I'm afraid. So yeah, that's I know that's even more whistle stop than EQ, isn't it? But I'm not sure whether you've seen the template or not yet. I don't know whether it's worth me having a look at one of the sections with you or not. Just is anyone just able to give me a wave to indicate whether you've seen the paperwork or not, or just shout out, I don't mind.
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, okay, fair enough. Thank you. Shall we, Ella, am I all right to share my screen and I'll show someone one of the standards just so it feels a bit more tangible? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Just give me 1 minute. I think you should be able to share anyway, Liz.
Oh yeah, I can see a button that says share. That's always a good start, isn't it? Share a window, I think I want to do, don't I? Oh, you know, I had that many
Just to
windows
say
on.
as well, at this stage, we're asking people to complete the self-assessment, but if we need kind of supporting documents, we'll follow up with you. So as long as we have the self-assessment with the application form, that's fine. And then we'll follow up regarding kind of support and evidence if we need to. So just to reassure you really that everything that we've kind of asked within the application form and the guidance is still relevant.
So I've picked out standard 7 because maybe it's the least obvious one really, but standard 7, which is the one about user involvement. You can see across the top you've got the one-line description, and that is that the organisation can demonstrate that they encourage the participation of children, young people and or adults at risk of harm, and how their services have been shaped by their views. So, okay, what does that mean? Okay, so we look at the guidance. So the guidance says your organisation should value the input of its service users and actively seek to receive their feedback. This feedback should be used when considering service improvement and changes. Service users should be aware of the ways they can provide feedback. Organisations should ensure they're aware of contemporary issues service users face. So you might think, okay, so in the context of us applying for this money to provide this service, how can we demonstrate that we've listened to children, young people that we're going to work with, their families in, you know, in shaping this service? So we suggest there's some evidence there. You might have, you might be able to show the resources that you use with your beneficiaries to capture their views or their thoughts or their feelings. So you might have feedback form, you might have a suggestion box, you might use Mentimeter, whatever it is. You might be able to, you'd be able to say, oh, this is what we use. You might be able to evidence changes made to a policy or a practice because of the, you know, the direct result of listening to your service users. So, you know, you might say, well, we always used to start our play schemes at 10 in the morning, but actually families told us that that was a bit tricky, so now we start at 10:30. You know, so whatever evidence you've got that you've listened to, you know, children and young people and families. There's some optional ones there. So you might have done a consultation that you know, you'd be able to show results of that. You might have minutes or notes if you've got like a parent carer forum or a young people forum that meet regularly. So well, I'll just submit a set of minutes. So, you know, there might be extras that you can give, but those essential ones, if you have those 2 essential ones, you could rate yourself green. You might think, you know what, I'm going to rate myself amber because actually we're in the process of setting up a working group with young people, but we haven't done it yet, or that's something we'd like to do. So that would be something that you would put on your action plan. And I think if I can scroll down my screen, yeah, there you go. So under all of the standards, you've got that action bit there, which is just really basic again. What is it that you need doing? When will it be done by and by whom? And as I said before, honestly, that can be bullet points. It doesn't need to be really lengthy or wordy. Okay, does that feel okay? Shall I stop sharing now? There we go.
Fab. Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, no worries.
I'll share my screen again. So you've got an offer of support from Liz there, so I'd definitely take her up on it if you're not quite sure kind of what to do around these safeguarding standards. And like Liz said, she is part-time, so try and give her a bit of notice as well. But yeah, we're just after the actual forms themselves being completed, and then if you were to receive a grant, we may follow up with you about that supporting evidence as well. But that's great. That's a really helpful overview. Thanks very much, Liz. Brilliant. So I will just start sharing again. Can everyone see my screen? Yeah, brilliant. Cool. So just to run through some final details and then we'll go straight on to questions. So the application deadline, like I've said, is 3rd of March at 12 p.m. So please submit it before then, including your sample listing on EQ. So once you get to the deadline, please don't edit the listing anymore because we will review it at that point. Decisions are expected week commencing the 17th of March. And like I said at the top, it is quite a short turnaround time for this fund. So we would be expecting kind of activities to start as soon as possible, really, from April 2025. Payments will be made in 2 kind of tranches for this fund. So the first one will be in April, and then the second one will be in October, subject to the 6-month report and everything sort of going well. And then the delivery period is until 31st of March 2026. So please get in touch if you've got any questions at all. I'm really happy to kind of meet you, come out and see you, just have a quick phone call, whatever works for you. And then for members of Salford CVS, we obviously also have wider development team support. So within these timescales, it might be difficult, but if you do need support around things like volunteering, policies and procedures, DBS checks, that support is always there as well. And then just some final bits. So everything that you need is on the live grants page of our website. So if you haven't been on there yet, I'm not sure how you've ended up here, but it's all on there. The guidance, the safeguarding standards template, a guide about creating your sample listing on EQ, the application form, the budget is all on there. And that's the application deadline again, like I said before. Brilliant. So that was everything from me. I think that was pretty much everything we needed to cover, but Simon, correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, I think we're good to move on to questions. So I'll stop sharing, and I will stop recording as well.
Thanks, Ella. That was